I think once I almost didn't record, so extra retentive about it.
No
But
good.
officially, welcome everyone to tonight's virtual tasting. We're very excited to be joined by Justin Farmer, the man behind Whisky in Isolation. We also might have a extra guest with us tonight. I don't know when he's hopping on.
He said hopefully around 8 o'clock, so I've got to like kind of time it.
I think considering the lineup, we might time this perfectly.
Yeah,
So we'll hope for it.
we'll see how we go.
But we'll see how we go. I'm like, do I say who it is? I might say who it is. Lee Atwood from Backwoods Distilling Co. Will hopefully pop in and join us to talk about the apple of my rye when we get to it. But Justin will obviously be chatting us through all of the other drams before we dive in. Just a housekeeping to go over. Full housekeeping videos always shared in the Zoom link email for you. I think I remembered to add it this time. But yeah, don't drink and drive. That's like the most important. Please don't drink and drive. Um, all of our recordings are up on our YouTube channel. So all of the backdated virtual tastings are up there as well. You can watch back anytime. Please pop tasting notes and questions in the chat. That is genuinely my favorite part, and I think it's probably our guest's favorite part as well, is seeing what you guys taste and observe in the whiskey. And finally, I'll go through the tasting order quickly for the people watching on replay. So number one is the Launceston Distillery Good Things. Number two is the Hobart Whiskey You Don't Know Jacques. Number three is the Backwoods Distilling Co. Apple of My Rye. Number four is the Amber Lane Twice a Temptation. Very exciting. We're getting exclusive of this and of whiskey number five, which is the Killara Supernova. And then whiskey number six is the Highwayman Iron Meaden. So yeah, if you know the Whisky in Isolation labels, you know that Justin comes up with some of the coolest names. I've only figured out one of them, which Twice the Temptation is obviously the second release from Amber Lane, which I'm excited about. But we'll chat more about them as well as the whiskey inside. So let's kick off. Kick into your Launceston whiskey, dive in, and I'll hand it over to Justin now to tell us a bit about the Whisky in Isolation brand because I think we might have a few new faces to the group. I know that some of you were at our last one, which I was looking back through the records. I think our last one was over a year ago.
It was 18 months ago, I think.
Yeah, a long, long time ago. So we might have
hmm
some we'll do some refresher and we'll, chat through how the brand got started a little bit as we tuck into the Launceston.
The important thing is, Emma, did you get a sample pack this time?
Of course, I got a sample pack
Ah,
this
cool.
time.
Because I'm pretty
Yes.
sure last time you were excluded.
I think last time, and this is hot tea for some of you in the chat. Sometimes my kits don't arrive on time. Like I know there's always been, some post delays. Sometimes my kits don't arrive on time, and I have been through entire virtual tastings where I don't have the whiskey in front of me, and I can't say anything. I just
That would be
push
the
on through.
worst.
So that might have been one of those tastings where I was just like, yes, I'm totally drinking the whiskey.
Well, just so you know, I've decided I'm going to do the virtual tasting today as well.
Yay.
Why not, eh? But
Yep.
thanks for having me back, Em. And I don't know if you guys all have enough glasses, but if you do have six glasses, I do highly recommend pouring them all out because all the whiskies tonight are high ABV, like if not cask strength, then pretty close to cask strength. So they do all benefit a little bit from some time in the glass. But for those of you who don't know the Whisky in Isolation brand, I won't drone on too long, but really, really quickly, formed in COVID. And the real aim of the brand is we work exclusively with Australian distilleries, and that's kind of my passion. And our passion is to promote Australian whiskey, but also give distilleries that don't necessarily have the finances or the kind of the commercial capabilities to experiment a little bit. So we don't do barrel picks because for me that's just too boring. But we don't go as far as say Tim at Hartwood, who will kind of buy the spirit and go off to his shed and kind of work his magic. We kind of sit somewhere in between where we have like a true collaborative relationship with distilleries, and we kind of sit down and chew over ideas about things that they haven't done before, that they'd like to do, kind of casks that they'd like to sort of try. So really, the aim is that every whiskey we put out, one is limited edition, so we don't do more than 120 bottles in a run, but also it's a first in some way for the distillery. So we like making my accountant nervous as well, because everything kind of pushed the envelope. And today, like the 6 whiskies, I'm quite like excited about, because they do showcase all the different ways that we have worked with distillery. So it's not just about funky casks. So we do have some funky casks tonight, but we're experimenting with distillation, we're experimenting with grains, we're experimenting with marrying casks, we're experimenting with like the American approach to making whiskey. So hopefully tonight there's at least one whiskey out of the 6 that you like, and hopefully that you'll buy as well. And so the first whiskey, the clue as well is in the green t-shirt that I'm wearing today. I thought, given it was St. Patrick's Day yesterday, we'd start with a triple distilled, pot stilled Australian whiskey from Launceston Distillery. And this is the first for Launceston in a number of ways, because, well, one, they've never done a triple distilled pot still whiskey, and also the cask that we've used as well is a new one for them. So it's a custom made bourbon cask. So we bought a whole load of different staves from different American distilleries, built the cask, and then we seasoned it with Fernando de Castilla Oloroso. Fernando de Castilla, one of the leading proponents of Oloroso in Spain. But the technique that we used, and it's kind of sad for me, we used to work with a cask broker and barrel maker called Master Cask in Tasmania, and they did some really cool funky things, but they're unfortunately due to commercial problems are no longer with us. But they were using a Mariposa technique for seasoning, and Mariposa basically is vacuum pressure injecting spirit into the wood. So it's often hard to get hold of these like really old casks, and so some whiskey purists are like, turn their nose up at it a little bit. But this is a way of kind of getting spirit deep into the wood and giving the impression that the liquid has been there for years and years. So that's what we did with the Fernando de Castilla, and the name Good Things. So Good Things, they come in threes. So sort of bad things, unfortunately, but good things come in threes. So that's why we kind of went with this name. But it was an interesting whiskey for us, because obviously Launceston usually use 100% malted barley. This is an entirely new mash bill for them. So it's 50% malted barley, and then the other 50% is unmalted, which is what makes it a pot stilled whiskey. Most of it is unmalted barley, but there is also a portion of oaten wheat in there. Because Chris had never done the brewing or the distilling before, the guys at Damien Mackey from Hunter Island was kind of part of the advisory team, as were the guys from White Label Distillery, because White Label were doing the brewing for both Hunter Island and Johnny Halton at Transportation Whiskey. So there was a kind of a nice little family that kind of collaborated behind the scenes in both getting the mash bill together and kind of getting the distillation and the brewing happening. So there we go. So bottled at 52% ABV.
Yeah, it's so cool. I like that pot still style. And you're right. You got two of the best people in Tasmania who know pot still in and out. Obviously, Johnny Halton bleeds green practically with how
He does.
in love he is with Irish whiskey. And I've always said Damien Mackey is one of the most naturally talented distillers in Tasmania. Even back when he was at Sheen Estate making their single malt, those were some of the best whiskies coming out of Tassie for a while. But yeah, super cool and unique and interesting um, kind of approach. I almost would have said like a rye. I know Michael said very fresh and clean. I got a lot of like mintiness, like yeah, spearmint leaves, like really, really fresh quality to the palate. So yeah, super cool.
It's been quite a while since I've actually had a dram of it. So yeah,
You tuck in because I
yeah, yeah.
whenever a guest gets the chance to talk, that's when I get the chance to sip. And I think last week I had a tasting and I had to run the whole thing and I would just give my talk and then I was like, "Mm, now I get to try it." No, I absolutely love it. Yeah, Leo says the spicy finish is great. Very cool. So was this kind of just like a very one-off kind of situation, or is it something that Launceston might experiment with?
So when we were like kind of when we were chatting and we were um going through ideas as to kind of what we wanted to do that was a distillery first, I'd already like done a lot of funky casts. So like kind of the first question was, is this something that you want to do with grain or distillation? And Chris said, oh, look, I've always wanted to give triple distilling a go. So obviously he wasn't going to do just a run for like a, my small little project. So he's he's done a big enough run that there will be other triple distilled Launceston whiskies in the future. We just have I have a gentleman's agreement or ladies agreement, depending on the distillery with the partners, that we always have a 12-month gap between anything that I do and they're going to do, because obviously my brand is about being the first to market with one of their ideas, and so they're all cool with that. So I don't know where he is with his future triple distill projects, but I'm sure there will be some very soon.
I think that's like it's kind of cool and it makes sense as an incentive for distilleries if it's like there's this weird thing that we're interested in doing, but like we don't know how it'll be received. And so you being a part of that and being able to be like, yeah, I actually want to do this. I want to put it to market before they release their product later down the line is kind of a nice tester, I suppose, testing the
Correct. Yeah.
waters.
Yeah. Sam and
Yeah.
Chantel call me their guinea pig
In the nicest way possible,
in
I'm
the
sure.
nicest possible way.
I love that. Well, we might move on to whiskey number two, the Hobart whiskey. You don't know Jacques. I you've done another like you've done quite a few bottlings with Hobart whiskey, right?
No, this is actually only my second one. They though were the first cast that I ever laid down, and it
Okay.
was through John Jarvis that kind of this whole actual idea came to fruition, really, because I was just chatting to various distilleries during COVID and struck up a good friendship with John, and I was kind of saying, oh, how else do you think we can kind of help um, smaller distilleries during the pandemic, given that um, they can't open their cellar door and to tourists and kind of have all those tastings and direct sales. And rather flippantly, he said, "Oh, buy from us in bulk, buy some barrels of us." Um, and I thought, oh, okay, that's not a bad idea. So we started like really really sort of small to just like sort of test the water and kind of feel like um, how we might approach independent bottling. But that first whiskey was a Jack Daniel's barrel, so there is kind of an echo of that in this release. You don't know Jacques, and it came again. It came about. I mean, John is no longer with Hobart Whiskey, but like kind of again, this idea came about through the fact that Johnny loves his bourbon whiskey, and we thought about creating what would almost be a Tasmanian bourbon if it was a single malt whiskey, if that kind of makes sense. So um, they'd never used virgin oak before, so we decided let's use virgin oak, but rather than being American virgin oak, we'll go French. And I just through a connection of mine, we had another connection into a tonnellery. I can't. My French is terrible. Tonnellery. Anyway, they're like they're cask makers in France. And this particular one was called Sylvan in Bordeaux, and they specialize in working with the premium estates in Bordeaux. So we knew that we were going to be able to get hold of some like amazing wood and an amazing cask, because they know how to like toast and char for the wine industry, albeit they'd never actually supplied to the spirit industry before. So, but we knew that we were going to get an amazing cask that would be able to treat like the US industry does. But virgin oak, as you guys may or may not know, has that challenge when it hasn't had spirit in it, because the new make is very unpredictable. It changes like on a dime. So like from like kind of almost a weekly basis, we'd taste it and it would be really oaky, and then it'd be really sweet, and then it would go oaky again and sweet. So kind of finding that sort of sweet spot was always the challenge. But around the 3 year mark, we thought, okay, it's ready to come out. But there were some interesting edges, and so that's where the idea came to break that connection with the first release that we'd done and put it in a refill Jack Daniel's single select barrel, and that's kind of even things out, but again, given that extra burst of kind of American style whiskey to it. And so you don't know Jacques is obviously because of the Jack Daniel's cask, but the fact that it was French oak. So yeah, but again, 52.5% this one.
I love that. Yeah, Howard's put it great. Peaches, peaches, and peaches. Yeah, very like peach cobbler, that like with the crumble on top kind of tone. It's very rich. It's still very recognizably Hobart whiskey as well, I feel like. But yeah, I haven't seen too many people using virgin French oak, which is very cool. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Virgin oak tends to like have that higher tannin. It tends to be like, oh no, where can this go? Like
Uh-huh.
you have to be very careful with it. So I think you've absolutely nailed that. Um, but yeah, I think as well, you know, if any of you guys in the chat have had the chance to meet John Jarvis, he's impossible not to befriend. Such a lovely guy. So um, yeah, it makes sense. Have you got other barrels laid down with Hobart still, or is that business secrets?
It's not a secret. Like kind of we tend to refill barrels anyway, but with like no commitment as to whether they'll become whiskey in isolation projects or whether they'll become distillery partner sort of projects. We like to kind of leave a little bit of flexibility, but also not leave tasks unused, especially like given kind of the climate we're in now, where getting hold of like good barrels is getting more and more challenging and more and more expensive. So there's always liquid in barrels. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I can imagine it must be more challenging for you. I know that in the previous tasting we did, there was a King Lake finished in a mulberry cask. So obviously you're using casks that are weird, unique, unusual, and you're not wanting to follow through and see a good product at the end. Is that kind of tricky getting that balance of like, oh yeah, we're gonna like work with this or we're going to commit to this. Like I will say, I haven't had a bad whiskey that you've done yet. Like you come up with some weird and wonderful ideas, but they've always really worked, which I think is cool. But is there ever that kind of concern around that?
Yeah, every whiskey we do.
It's
where and Lee will tell you like sort of next, like sort of some of my kind of panics around the next whiskey you're gonna try, and I now couldn't be happier. I'm really really excited for you guys to try it and sit and see what you think. But yeah, but there's always a risk, and that's why you understand why there are people that just do like the barrel picks because they kind of know what they're getting and putting in the bottle. But like 99% of the time, because we do some projects where we've bought part matured stock or fully matured stock that we then kind of finish or whatever. But most of our projects are starting from scratch, so you don't know, but you have confidence in the idea that you've kind of set off with, and confidence like with your partners as well. Like I don't have loads and loads of partners. I have partners that I know produce great whiskey and are fun to deal with. So
yeah, awesome. Well, I think that kind of ties in perfectly. I might ask Lee to unmute, and we might move on to whiskey number three, the apple of my rye, to kind of delve into what sounds like was an interesting project to create.
yeah, Lee, I mean, do you want to kind of give
Yeah,
like the kind of the background to it and kind of and the story around Triticale as well, which I think's pretty cool. I've got some extra notes as well if you need any help.
yeah, no worries. Well, I just heard from Stu actually, and Stu's on the road, so he was going to maybe chime in too and sort of give you guys a little bit of history of Triticale. But I'm actually going to meet Stu tomorrow, but he's on the road. We're doing a little project down near Mount Buller, so he can't get here. But I guess yeah, I'm happy to chat a little bit with what I know about Triticale and this really cool whiskey. I remember, yeah, when I sort of met Justin and yeah, we sort of got along really well straight away. And we've got like we're similar, really similar kind of guys. We've got really similar love of music, and we do metal gigs together. And yeah, so it's really nice to sort of have a friendship that sort of just goes beyond the whiskey. But yeah, I remember sort of chatting to him early on about this project, and he was really interested to explore some unique grains and I think we talked about some other things like sorghum and other grains that aren't really being kind of turned into whiskey at the moment. I know there's a few people doing it now, but there sort of wasn't at the time. And then we got Stu involved in the project, and we said to Stu, what is the grain that you guys grow that no one is turning into whiskey? And he thought it was triticale. So both Justin and I, our ears pricked up and our eyes kind of pricked up, and we're like, this sounds like the thing we need to do. And particularly like with, I guess, my kind of interest in, I guess, whiskey and grains. We make single malt and we make rye whiskey, but my real love is rye. I've got to admit that. I think we make great single malt, but I just love rye whiskey. And if I could only make rye whiskey, I probably would. But I've got to pay the bills too. Rye's a bit more negative. So I guess Triticale kind of just really interested me because and we probably all know the story of rye grain. Like rye there's no other way to say it. It's an absolute bastard. It's real. Like you guys can see the brew house behind me and the distillery behind me, but rye, I've cried in here. I've cried in here because of rye. I've cried and I've called, and I mainly call Stu and I go, what do I do? Like, sometimes I'm here for like 12 hours with a stuck rye mash. So yeah, the reason for that is that it's really high in beta glucans. So without getting too nerdy, what that means is when you heat it up and you start converting the starch to sugar, these beta glucans are released and multiply, and they kind of turn everything into a sticky, gluey mess. So when you're trying to separate liquid from grain, it basically stops you from doing that. So Triticale sort of came along as not a solution to it, but an alternative in that most of the time you kind of add wheat to rye anyway, because it kind of works as a bit of a it's sort of like I call it kind of a nullifier. It kind of pulls down the peaks of rye sometimes and rounds it out. So the idea behind Triticale was, it's rye grain, but it's wheat as well. So it's this hybrid of the two grains. It's man-made. It's created by, I can't remember the name of the guy. Stu would remember, but it was created sort of in the late 1800s. And it's like over the last kind of 100 years or so, it's really developed into a really versatile grain. So I guess you're trying to get, like, rye grain itself is an incredibly hardy, disease-resistant grain. It grows anywhere. It's a really perfect grain actually to grow in Australia. And then you've got wheat, which is a little bit more susceptible to all of those things, disease and drought, but it's actually really high yielding. So they've, it was a German, of course, and they've put these two things together. And over the last 100 years, it's evolved into what is now a really useful grain. It's actually mainly used for feedstock, because it grows so well, and it's got a lot of, there's a lot of starch and a lot of energy in it. So it makes sense to make whiskey out of it, right? Because it grows perfectly in Australian conditions, but then we get kind of a really high yield out of it. But then also we don't have the issues of beta glucans blocking up our mash tuns. So when I've only ever done Justin's project, and I should probably go back to it. And then I treated it like a rye anyway. I was just way too nervous. I used rice hulls and enzymes, and I was like, I am not. But if I did it again, I think I'd be more confident to just let it. I don't think I'd need too many rice hulls. I way overdid it, and I was super cautious. But knowing what I know now about Triticale, and definitely the way that this whiskey is kind of developed and the flavour of it, it's definitely something I've got to go back to. So I don't know, Justin, if you want to talk about the flavour.
Well, some extra things I'll just kind of add. Obviously, this is like 100% Triticale as well, and we put but we did a 30% biscuit rose toast onto it as well. Also, then the cask itself. Again, this is by a master cask, so again another custom built bourbon cask that we then used, again, the Mariposa technique to season with Australian apple brandy. So again, the cask is a little bit cool as well, and something that's, again, Backwoods haven't used before. Like, we were drinking it at cask strength, which was like around 66, 61. And to be honest, I was probably pretty happy with leaving it like that, but we decided just like a little bit of water just kind of opened it up a little bit, and kind of and took the edge off. The final thing I should actually say about Triticale is it's like the very own whiskey Pavlova gate as well, because like it's definitely German, because I've checked with Stu from Voyager, and whatever Stu says, I believe, but the Scots have definitely been trying to claim it. I thought we were going to be the first Australian Triticale whiskey. Unfortunately, the guys in West Australia, Tiger Snake, put out a Triticale whiskey, but I've had a lot of joy in emailing them saying your website's wrong, because they've got on there that it was invented in the 1800s by the Scots. I said, no, you're incorrect. It's the Germans. But anyway, so there's a little bit of to and fro, argy-bargy as to who were the brains behind Triticale, but it's definitely the Germans.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And like it's such a cool whiskey. It still is that kind of distinctively rye flavor, but it's got so much more interesting sweetness to it. And maybe as well the apple brandy cask made a bit of a difference. I did like Leo's comment. This is Aldi stuff. Good, different. I haven't TV.
It doesn't officially release until tomorrow to my mailing list. So just let you guys know that you're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, amazing. Well, it's because we only have a limited number of bottles of each of these available tonight. It's an email Ollie, first come first served, so Oliver at thewhiskylist.com.au. But yeah, like that first nose, automatically I was getting those like licorice all sorts cubes, and Leo was right, the sweet colored bits, not the actual licorice. That I don't even know what that foamy sugary situation is. It's like not a toffee or anything. But it's so cool, so interesting. Where is the apple brandy? Tasmanian, Victorian? Is it locally? Did you know?
Well, we wanted it to be Victorian, ideally, just to tie in with the backward story of always supporting like hyper local. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. So it's from a distillery in South Australia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I only know one apple brandy maker in Victoria, and I think they bottle it at like 9 or 10 years old, so that would have been some expensive apple brandy.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a challenge to source Victorian, but we got Australian, which was the important thing. It's worth noting as well, we haven't bottled everything. There will be a sequel to this whiskey as well.
I'm very excited to see that. If anyone's making the trip up to Yakandanda, do not harass Lee to taste it. There'll be nothing left in the barrel.
I actually tried to kidnap this cask, and Justin was calling me, and I was pretending I didn't know him anymore, and yeah, but eventually I relented and gave it back to him.
I love that. I imagine as well, like being one of the distilling partners, that's kind of like a if an experimental project goes so well, you're like, oh, I want this for me now.
Well, it's kind of like what you said before. I was like, if he's crazy enough to do Triticale, I'm in because I don't have to take the lead on this. And now, yeah, and I was like, shit, I wish I did because it is, yeah, I think it's, and in terms of what I love about whiskey, this is such in my wheelhouse. I actually held off on cracking it open until last Friday, and I just so enjoyed it. It was, yeah, it's,
Oh,
yeah.
there you go. That's my bottle. Like there's about not a
There's
lot
like
left.
nothing left.
Yeah.
I love that. It's so cool, and it tickles my brain in a way. When you taste a whiskey and you're like, gosh, it's so unusual and interesting, but it's tasty at the base. It is a very tasty whiskey. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of see more of this grain because yeah, like you were saying, I always I've heard from other rye distillers that rye goes like clag in a still, like it's just that
Yeah.
very clag kind of. Ugh. So it
Nice.
very much is a labor of love.
Yes, yeah. This could solve all our problems. So, and I think that really the success and the future of Triticale is in education, and like Justin has really taken the lead on that. And again, like the more that the world moves into thinking about sustainable farming and farming practices, like Triticale is such a smart grain to use in our industry. Like it just uses way less water. It just Yeah, it's such a clever grain for Australian conditions. So massive thanks to Justin on being bold enough to give us a crack.
Yeah, I
Thanks,
think
mate.
that's amazing. Particularly, I've met winemakers who are like, I don't plant grapes that don't work in our climate, and it makes a massive difference environmentally. So
Yes.
yeah, but no, thank you so much, Lee, for joining us. You're welcome to like hang around. You're clearly chilling at the distillery with a glass in hand.
I've actually just ran from an event. We've got the Albury Beer and Beef Club tonight, and I've been down there talking to them, and then I ran up here to talk to you guys, and I've got to run back down there now. So, yeah, it's one of those nights where I had three things on at once, but I really wanted to come and yeah, support Justin in his awesome whiskey. So, thanks for having me, guys, and I will have to duck off, but and nice to see
Good
you.
on you, Lee.
I haven't seen you for ages. Yeah, so good to see you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We'll let you get back to the very
Thanks,
delicious sounding
Lee. You're a
festival.
legend.
Very
Right.
jealous.
See
Cheers,
you guys.
mate.
Wow. All right. Well, we might move on to whiskey number 4 then. That was so cool. I love people like Lee, and I think someone mentioned in the comments, that he was a great teacher. He was a school teacher, so when he can geek out about things and educate about things, it is always so wonderful to see. But we are moving on to something a little more traditional, I suppose you could say, with the Amber Lane, Justin.
Traditional-ish. Yeah, maybe. So I mentioned that at the top of the virtual tasting that we were kind of doing some marrying of casks. This kind of sits in the marrying of casks, but in a slightly different way. So we put out a release with Amber Lane 2 years ago now. Jesus, where does the time go? Called Garden of Temptation. And as Noel was saying, yeah, it was a big surprise for quite a lot of people. And what that whiskey was it was a double sherry cask. So it was matured first in McWilliam Apera, so Australian sherry, then went into a Fernando de Castilla Oloroso cask. So we had this kind of big, rich sherry whiskey, and it had been in the sherry for around 3.5 years. And me and Rod were at Whiskey Abbey, and we were having beers after the first session with Brett from Spirit Thief that are no longer with us. And Brett had been doing a lot of red wine casks, and we'd been having this discussion about kind of how the Australian industry and red wine, and this kind of fight where some whiskey geeks kind of going, oh, red wine casks, they're kind of crap, hate them, they're like kind of over the top, but Rod was kind of going, oh, I reckon we can kind of do something cool with red wine. And because we were like focused on this sherried whiskey and kind of the Spanish backbone to it, we thought, oh, let's use a Spanish wine to finish it in. But we wanted to stay Australian as well. So he was good mates with this guy called Angus at Bindon Wines in the Hunter Valley. That's like a low impact winery that kind of do lots of amazing kind of sustainable kind of green things in their production. And they produce a small amount of Tempranillo, which accounts for about 1% of the red grapes produced in Australia. So we thought this would be like kind of a really fun way for Amber Lane to kind of dip its toe into using red wine casks, something that really no one else here was using. So we stuck it into this Tempranillo cask, and it was only in there for a couple of weeks, and the impact on the sherry was mental. Like, we couldn't believe the influence that the cask actually had on it. But actually, after 9 weeks, we pulled it out of the Tempranillo cask and put it into an American oak bourbon cask for another year, just to kind of bring all these flavors together. So we released that 2 years ago as a 4.5-year-old whiskey as Garden of Temptation. But what we didn't do, we didn't bottle all of it. We had a certain amount left over when we thought, okay, well, how do we create like kind of a cool and funky sequel to this? And Rod had a pretty cool American oak Heaven Hill bourbon cask that was of a similar age. And the interesting thing about this cask was that he hadn't recharred it, and traditionally, like, kind of you'll rechar the cask to reactivate things, but he wanted to see what the spirit would be like in a non-charred cask, so something that was a little bit more spirit driven. So what we did was we put the remaining Garden of Temptation into this bourbon cask. So in a 1-to-2 ratio. So there's like, I can't even remember like the literage, but there's twice as much of the bourbon cask as there is of the Garden of Temptation whiskey, and it's been then maturing there for another 2 years. So it's kind of a marriage, but additional maturation time as well. So what you've got in your glass at the moment is a 6.5-year-old whiskey that has some of the characteristics of Garden of Temptation, which was very oily, syrupy, had some umami notes from the Tempranillo, but then this uncharred bourbon cask that's bringing these kind of big fudgy notes. So this is the sample you've got here is from like January, so it's been a couple more months since then. So it's kind of it's progressing, and it will go for another couple more months before we release it, probably in June. But the ABV that you're drinking at is natural cask strength 57, and that is what it'll be bottled at. So it's pretty close to what it will be like when we bottle it. But obviously, there's an extra 6 months maturation time, and obviously we'll give it time in steel tanks and time in the bottle and whatever. But interested to hear what you think, because I actually haven't tried it since January, December. So this is kind of new for me as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I am. Noel mentioned as well, but yeah, the previous
Yeah.
Amber Lane release was a big surprise. Didn't think like I think I did the same as Noel. Like I saw the specifications, I was like, oh, is it gonna be just a big overblown sherry bomb? And then tasted it at the virtual, and it was just like, oh, or I think you sent me a bottle, Justin, and it was just like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Like
Yeah.
it was beautifully rich, really well balanced still. Um, I think that this is like it still has a lot of that big rich syrupiness, but almost a
Yeah.
nuttiness added to it as well.
Yeah.
And a little
Yeah.
bit how it's getting a bit of the stone fruits. Brendan says pink musk sticks, which is great. I'm getting cocoa powder um, as well, like just straight up cocoa powder, not any sugariness to it added on top. Noel's getting freeze-dried raspberries and Leo's getting banana lollies. Yeah, it still
Mm.
has all that like sweet candy-ish sort of tone to it, but I feel like
Yeah.
um it's they're cousins. Like they taste
Yeah.
like cousins.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not direct relations, maybe they're second cousins, but like it's still very, very cool. And I know you work a lot with Rod. I love Rod. I saw him at the Canberra show this past weekend, but yeah, it's cool to
Yeah.
see him doing more with bourbon cask as well, I think.
Yeah. And just so you know, this is part two of a trilogy as well. So
Mm.
there's quite a cool end to kind of this story, and that's kind of again something that has evolved a little bit as the brand has. That there was always obviously the intention that limited edition distillery first, but we've now like kind of got into the realm of, is there a way of turning that first whiskey into kind of something more, that there's like kind of a journey that like kind of people can kind of go on, so you can you see where it starts, but there are different directions that whiskey can go in, a riff on the original, but still then has its own identity. So that's kind of been working sort of quite nicely for us as well.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with Howard. It's very much from the Amber Lane family. Like, yeah, it is. It tastes very, very different, but it is very exciting. I'm curious to. It would be great to do like the three next to each other. At some point, I think I saw Noel nodding. That's a trilogy I can get behind. But yeah, super excited to see, and
I,
obviously.
I'll need to get some samples of Garden of Temptation off now, because I've got bugger all left of it.
I think I still it's gone. It's long gone. I think I still have some. I think I've still got some in a bottle, so I'll have to put some in some smaller sample bottles for you and whatnot. But
Awesome. Anyway,
yeah.
I'm like really happy that, as I said, it's been 3 months since we like put the sample together, and it'll be another three months, but yeah, pretty good, isn't it?
Yep, definitely. Well, we might move on to whiskey number five, the Killara Supernova. And I'll give everyone in the chat a heads up as well, because obviously this is still in barrel. And this is the booziest at 65% ABV. We are not going in light. I will say the Backwoods at 58 drank so easily. Um, so I'm curious to see how this one goes down, but I have added an extra question to the poll, which is a suggestion for what bottling strength this should come out at. So we can get to that later in the night when we do the poll. But yeah, I'm really curious to kind of see how this one came together for you, Justin.
Cool. And just so people know that the ABV will not affect the price of the bottle either. It will be what it is. It'll be my Killara price, whatever the ABV is. And just so you know, me and Christy like being are veering towards putting it at natural cask strength. But if you guys hate it at natural cask strength, and if you've got water, please do kind of play with that. But let me know what you think. But this is our second project with Killara. Our first one was reversed into port, which was a really cool old port cask that we then put into bourbon. So traditionally, you'd kind of start with bourbon and go into port, and we kind of reversed it up. For this release, we were chatting about again just about cask typologies, and she hadn't done like a lot of wine casks, so we were kind of talking about wine, and we were having that conversation about red wine and kind of the love-hate relationship the industry had with red wine. Thought, okay, we wanted to not do that, but we wanted to also be as Tasmanian as possible. And so Chrissy said, what do you reckon if we can get hold of a Jacques cask? Jacques basically is the winery in probably not just Tasmania, but like up there with like Shandong in terms of sparkling wine in Australia, and they partnered in the 80s with a big champagne house from France. And I'm trying to remember Louis, I've got it down, Roederer, who were basically saw the potential of Tasmania as a champagne producing region, just because the climates there being very similar. So this partnership with Jacques enabled Tasmania to kind of take the lead on producing a sparkling wine that also you can't call champagne because it's not in the Champagne region, but using the techniques that they do for champagne. And I drink a lot of wine, and I drink a lot of sparkling wine, but I need my brother who's just done his WSET level 3 to kind of give you guys the geekiness in terms of production or whatever. But we kind of thought it would be super fun if we could get hold of one. So we can't put Jacques on the label or anything, but they've said nothing about us speaking about it or kind of mentioning it in tastings. So it's 100-litre French oak cask, and I guess with a sparkling wine, kind of I expect it to be, I don't know, light and zippy, because it's a sparkling wine cask. But what I learned is that what you actually taste is the richness behind the bubbles. So you get the yeast, the oak, and the thyme that has been in the cask. So that you're ending up with a whiskey that's a lot deeper, sweeter, and more textured than you'd kind of expect. So what you're tasting now, as Emma said, is it's not quite the finished product. Again, like the Amber Lane pulled the sample in January. This will be released it'll be probably released at the end of August, but we'll have some preview bottles at Tasmanian Whisky Week. So again, from what you're tasting now, it'll be 6 or 7 months older, and then again the same process of having plenty of time in steel tanks and plenty of time in bottle. But Chrissy actually did do a really super early preview last year at Tasmanian Whisky Week. So it was at 3.5 years, and people were going, okay, can I buy a bottle now? And she was going, no, this is like an early preview. So we were pretty happy with it sort of back then, but the extra time is definitely adding a lot more texture
Yeah,
and
super,
flavor.
super cool.
Yeah.
I'm a bit sad that you didn't opt with referencing the Jan's cask type with maybe like a, you know, similar kind of name. I would go the was it like the Brady Bunch at Marsha? It was just like oh, like Marsha said, sure Jan. I feel like that could have been
Well,
sure Jan bracket Z.
Supernova is a working title. There are no labels or anything produced. So if anyone has any amazing other suggestions, please feel free to email them through to me or whatever. If I kind of change my mind on Supernova and use one of your names, I'll give you a bottle.
You heard it here. So um Leo says that he tried this whiskey at the Taz Whiskey Week last year and it's
Oh,
unrecognizable now. So
oh, really? In a good or
yeah.
bad way, Leo?
Well, he's smiling, so I assume good. Good, yes. In a good way. Yeah, I think uh where was it? Howard was sort of saying it smells like a bakery, and yeah, Michael and I were getting chocolate, like chocolate babka, chocolate croissant. Brendan reached for the water immediately, but it dulls considerably, but still big cinnamon buns. Yeah, like just that overwhelming cinnamony, chocolatey, brown, sugary, bakery kind of goods to it, which is so cool. And like I know you were saying, yeah, like without the bubbles, you get the flavor of like the yeast and stuff. And that malic acid is something that I've noticed a lot in champagne cask whiskeys, that kind of something that you get similarly in like poached apples or like baked apples.
Yeah.
But
And although I don't know if it's true or not, but like in Jancis sparkling wine, I know they don't just use like the Pinot Blanc, they use like the Pinot Noir. So I don't know if like some of the like the grapes that they've kind of used has had any impact. That just might be BS from my perspective. But
well, I know that they do like a sparkling rosé type wine as well, so like not fully um like yeah, like a pink champagne type thing. Uh which I love, but I can't drink champagne. So
why does it send you
um
doolally, does it?
yeah, 100%. But yeah, so Howard was asking what was the barrel, so I assume was it like French oak
Yeah.
champagne?
French oak chance sparkling wine cask. Correct.
Very cool.
And again, there will be a sequel to this one as well.
Very exciting. Yeah, I'm super excited to see. I know we've already got some name suggestions in the comments. Not happy Jan or very happy Jan. And there was a tie-in with Abel Janzoon Tasman. Don't know who that is. But yeah, very, very cool. I'm curious to see actually how the poll results go for what people think the ABV should be at. I've given a few
Yeah.
options and some quite like broad ABV stuff. And I'll share because I can't vote. I'll share what I think it should be bottled at after you guys all put a vote in. But yeah, very, very cool stuff. We might, speaking of getting closer towards the pole, we might move on to whiskey number 6, the Highwayman Iron Meaden. Oh, Abel Tasman Dutch discoverer, yeah, of Tasmania.
Oh, so there you go.
And
You learn
Janzoon.
something new every day. Thanks,
I
Leo.
know. Oh, well, I mean, like, there's so much about Australia to learn. I was speaking to a Scot the other day, a Scotsman, just telling him about like the Kimberleys and stuff like that. It's just like there's so much to Australia that we don't know. But yeah, let's crack into this Iron Maiden. I don't think anyone is surprised. Lee mentioned it that you are quite the metalhead, Justin. I know that I think I dropped you and John Jarvis off at a
Oh, you
metal
did?
concert, or I met you guys for
Yeah,
drinks
you did. No,
before.
yeah, just before we were going to Aylestorm at
Yes.
Northcote Theatre.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously the metalhead. I have seen Iron Maiden in concert. They're phenomenal. I think they're
I'm
touring
sick.
again later this year, but
They are the day before Whiskey Abbey, which is great because like last year I had Metallica on the Saturday of Whiskey Abbey and felt like shit on the Sunday. So now I'm going to feel like shit on the Saturday at
the
Whiskey
whole
Abbey.
weekend.
It's like, why do these bands do it to me? But there you go.
Well, but
Um,
yeah.
but Iron Meaden, I guess it's worth kind of quickly noting as well, just in case anybody does like Iron Meaden, it's sold out in about 45 minutes online, and then the rest sold out very, very quickly at the couple of shows that we did. I've got 2 bottles out of my personal stock that I've given to Emma and Ollie, so that is literally it. It's I will what I've now got there is now is all you'll be leaving me with if any of you guys want to pick it up. And worth mentioning as well that like I know I've given the guys at Whisky List a good deal for you guys on the first 2 whiskies as well, the Hobart and the Launceston, but I'm sure Emma will mention all that at the end. Anyway, sales pitch over. Sorry. Dan and Highwayman. Yeah, well, obviously that all came together because we're both mental metalheads, and we both our favorite band is Iron Maiden. I should have worn the t-shirt that I actually produced especially for this whiskey, just for a little bit of fun. I was going to put it online for sale because people were going, yeah, we really want to buy it, but I know that the Iron Maiden lawyers keep a very, very watchful eye on weird kind of bootlegged kind of t-shirt stuff. So I decided to not do that. But part of the reason for collaborating with Dan, other than the fact that he's mental and I like mental whiskey and we like Iron Maiden, was that I did want to do a peated whiskey. And I traditionally, when we were kind of putting this project together, was not a big peat fan. Over the last 3 years, I now absolutely sort of love my peat, but I wanted something that at the time when I was kind of early in my peat journey that I knew that I would enjoy drinking and that wouldn't blow other people's heads off who were still, again, finding their way into the peated world. So although this is a heavily peated whiskey, theoretically, in terms of the barley that's being used, the fact that we've used a cask that is basically, again, American oak bourbon cask, but seasoned with mead liqueur has really, I think, balanced the smokiness like really, really well. So you do get obviously clear smoke undertones, but it is really sort of balanced with like what's in the cask. For those of you that don't know what mead is, it's the world's oldest fermented drink. So honey, water, and thyme. But for the liqueur, it's then fortified with a natural spirit, and they add all sorts of mental herbs and spices. So this mead liqueur, again, Australian, because always going to, where we can, use Australian products. A brand called Maxwell, who've won like basically every award under the sun for both their mead and mead liqueur products. I did actually at Whiskey Abbey have a bottle of the mead liqueur there, just so people could understand again that the cask journey, and people were trying to buy the mead liqueur off me, and I was going, I don't sell it. It's not mine. But like again, that's what we try and do when we do these in-person tasting events, is allow you guys to go on a journey and understand where the cask has come from and the cask thinking has come from. So you'll probably know with like Highwayman being based in Byron Bay, tropical climate, doesn't take a lot of time to sort of mature. So again, we were having to watch this one very carefully, but but it's kind of reached a similar maturation time to most Highwayman whiskies of about 3 years. And Dan is really, really happy that I'm undercutting him as well in terms of price. No, he's not really. He doesn't give a shit. But
Well, yeah, the cheapest highwayman you can get.
it's the cheapest highwayman you can get, but also the best. What can I say? But it's pretty fun. And again, just as a recurring theme, there is going to be a sequel to this one. I almost want to tell you exactly what the sequel is because I love the name of what the whiskey is going to be called. Should I do it? Okay, I'll do it anyway.
It's up to you. I can always delete this, and this only stays between us and the group. I can always delete this from social media.
You can just like bleep it out.
I've done this before with like the technical glitch sound.
Anyway, I'm just excited purely for the name. Thank you, Howard.
Yeah,
you're on my Christmas card list.
I love that. Yeah, Michael also gets the reference. So yeah, and for the YouTube recording, obviously it'll be a glitch sound.
Right.
I think I used the Simpsons technical errors or whatever. Please stand by. But yeah, very very cool and interesting. Yeah, I think what was it? I was saying this whiskey tastes more of smoke than peat. Yeah, I agree. It almost to me tastes like if you took banana skins and then you like caramelized and turned them into toffee, like know how you get on the fancy desserts like the toffee spikes and stuff. I feel like it's that, but banana as well.
Yeah, and Howard, in terms of where the peated malt comes, it'd be really great. Like I know, like kind of the guys at Ferno play with sort of peat, and the guys at Warbs have now got are kind of going to be doing it. But this very boring, just from beds in Scotland. So that's where we are still having that connection to Scotland. It'd be much better if it could be Australian peated barley, but we'll get there maybe.
Yeah, maybe one day. I'm sure the guys at Voyager Malts are working on something. But yeah, I think all peated malts in Australia where they don't have their own kind of peat mine will be coming from Baird's. I know Fluorio sources from Baird's as well. So it makes sense that distillers will kind of like bulk buy in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will now that we are sipping, enjoying, and potentially like me polishing off the last whiskey, I am going to launch the poll. So it should if you scroll down, it'll give you I think if you scroll down, I don't know. Justin, you can see people voting as they go. You can vote for your top 2 favorite whiskies of the night. Don't spoil anything, Justin.
I went. Very exciting though, wasn't it, watching it?
Yeah, it's very exciting and very fun. Yeah, so I'm curious to see the results because these have all been some very spectacular whiskies.
Close,
I think.
Pretty close.
I know, I know. There is a strong leader though, so um, get a few more votes in. But I did share it a little bit earlier. It's a lot of information in text, and I'll share it again. But Justin is very generously giving us a good price. Those are the correct prices, yes. I pulled them from your email.
Yeah. That what was on the email. Yeah, so 150 for good things, 150 for you don't know Jacques, and then it's 185 for Apple of My Rye, and it's 220 for the Iron Meaden with limited bottles, very limited bottles.
Just 2. So, and that $150 for the Hobart and the Launceston is a very, very generous offer for the guys attending the tasting tonight, you guys. So, yeah, it boggles my mind that you managed to do such great pricing, and I think it comes down to the love of the whiskey and the love that you have for Australian distillers that you create insane and potentially very expensive projects.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you managed to bring it to us at such a great
The,
price, which we really
the
appreciate.
the aim is not to send my family broke.
Yes, ideally not. You've got you got water filters to install, so
Yes, don't even get me started about water tanks and water filters.
oh no. Well, I got a call from my husband, a few months back, being like, "Ever guess whose house I'm at?" Just
It was it was so weird. And for people who don't know, these guys live in Melbourne. I live in Barwon Head, so like an hour and a half away. So like, not down the road. And it's like open the door and there's Richard and was like husband
yeah,
like at my door. It's like what? It's like had to do
yes,
a double take. It was very, very weird.
no, you. Yeah, his coworkers are like, "How do you know this
Yeah.
guy?"
Yeah. How do you know this man?
I love it. It was very cute and very sweet. But this reiterates that Melbourne is like Victoria, and Melbourne is a much smaller town than people think. So,
Yeah, yeah. True.
all right, I think everyone has voted or close to. I will end the poll, and then wait, oh, I love that. What's the best way to make a small fortune in the Australian whiskey industry? Start with a large fortune.
Yeah, yeah.
I appreciate that
Pretty much,
because
Leo.
it's true. But I will share the results. Drum roll, please. And the Killara Supernova absolutely took the lead. The Amber Lane coming a second, close second. It almost was the Highwayman that was coming second for a brief moment. But yeah, the Amber Lane pipped it, and yeah, Highwayman, and then Backwoods.
You
The
just got to
Hobart
love that
ones.
the winning whiskies are the ones that are not available yet.
Yeah, obviously,
Oh, hey, you've
because
reminded me. There you go. Look, in the chat, put the mailing list. Sign up to the mailing list.
oh
Or
yes,
but email Whisky List if you want those two whiskies. But sign up to that mailing list anyway.
yes,
But you get
100%.
the VIP list if you ask Emma and Ollie nicely.
We've got the hookup.
Yeah, you got the hookup.
Exactly. And the ABV that you should follow the Killara at, the majority of people said natural cask strength. I would say this at 62%. I think you'd have to bring the water down slowly to not lose the flavor profile, but I reckon that would make it uh, just nice. So you'll have to attempt it. Um, uh, see how it goes. Obviously, do some samplers when you get ready to bottle, but
Yeah.
from the crowd perspective, natural cask strength is the go.
Cool.
Leo reckons he was the only one who voted for the Launceston. That's fair.
Leo, I think it's a bloody cracking whiskey. I think that they're not maybe not as trendy as some of the other distilleries. I don't know. I think it's a cracker. But anyway,
Yeah,
that's me.
100%. I think a pot still as well is like a little bit unusual. And also the first whiskey always suffers in the lineup, usually.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's the one that's forgotten the quickest. But
yeah.
they were all absolutely phenomenal drams. Please email through. I've left Oliver at thewhiskylist.com.au's email if you wanted a bottle of anything. And I think that is it from me. Thank you so much, Justin, for joining us.
You are
And
welcome. Thanks,
shout
guys,
out
for
if he
turning
ever
up.
watches. Yeah, shout out if Lee ever watches back for joining us. Um, thank you, Justin. You're doing wonderful stuff, and I feel like you're someone who's not just building this like independent bottling business, but you are on the ground supporting Australian distillers, small craft distillers, and it is a project of love for you, and
It
you can
is.
taste it in the liquid. So
Thanks, Em.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, everyone who hopped on to join us tonight, and we will catch you at the next one. Take care.